So, there's a common question I'm sure a lot of people ask when they use computers or laptops, or even notebooks for that matter. And that common question is, what is the better browser? Now, there are a variety of browsers out there, but two or three that go to the top of the list are, or even four for that matter. The four that go to the top of the list are Internet Explorer, Firefox, Google Chrome, and Microsoft Edge. And out of those four, two are very prominent, that being Edge and Chrome. And between the two, the question is always asked, what is the most preferred? Well, with any laptop, computer, or notebook, especially if it has, let's say, Windows on it, the primary browser right off the bat is Microsoft Edge. Now, I know if you get a Chromebook, that the obvious browser right off the bat is Google Chrome. That's obvious. But if you were to choose between the two, which is the more preferable? Which is the most reliable? The one that basically gives you less distractions and less, wait while the page loads or exit page if it takes too long kind of option. Which one out of those two is the most preferable? Well, believe it or not, it's kind of a tie. I know it sounds weird, but it is. And it's kind of a tie. Some look at the pros and the cons of both. Some look at the fact that both are fast, one preferably faster than the other. And some look at them as being like, having its issues. Like, it can't do this, it can't do that. And, so on and so forth. So it's kind of in the middle. But if you were to really look closely, when you browse on Google.com or even Bing.com or Yahoo.com, when you browse and you ask what is the best one, even though a majority will kind of show a tie between both browsers, the one that's slightly beats out one over the other, seemingly, is Chrome, just barely. Chrome beats it out, and I think it's because of the fact that it's not a browser that, is for a majority of laptops and PCs and, notebooks and all that, it's a browser that's not already installed most of the time. It's a browser that you have to install yourself. And sometimes that helps out, especially if the browser is not part of the overall structure of the laptop, of the computer, of the software that's pre-installed, like let's say Windows 10. It's not part of that. Instead, it's its own thing. So there's less loading for it, if you know what I mean, like when you're on a page and the LED light on your computer or your laptop starts flashing, constantly because the internet is helping download updates. There's less of that. And there's more emphasis on allowing you to browse, the internet. There's more emphasis on allowing you to browse the internet without any problems. So, between those two, especially when you do some research, there is just a barely inchable victory in the favor of Chrome. But now it also makes you ask that question, why is that? Why is Chrome barely victorious, between it and Edge? Well, it's real simple. It's very, very simple why that is. Because you see, Microsoft Edge, like several other browsers out there, are trying to be, or is trying to be, like Google Chrome. They are literally trying to be like Google Chrome. They are. They are trying to be like Google Chrome in many ways. I mean, there are times that I've done minor updates. I've done the feature updates, or in other words, when I've allowed them to happen without pausing them, that afterwards, Microsoft Edge, the browser itself might remain the same, but have a few tweaks here and there, or it might have a completely new overhaul and the browser looks identical to another browser, in this case Google Chrome. And the reason they're trying to pattern themselves off that is because they see the success that Chrome is having, that Google is having, with how people are able to integrate where they go. They're able to basically integrate, what pages they go to with ease, no problems. They're noticing the success it's having. So they want to basically copy that pattern. Now, what's interesting is that Microsoft, I think, had some kind of a legal issue with Google and vice versa. And I think the case was thrown out because there was no real significant cause for it being in court, any cause for significant copyright, because even though things look the same and identical, there was enough evidence there to show that it was a completely different server that the browser was working off of, or was being created off of. And you shouldn't fucking do that. Like I said, the case was basically settled out of court or thrown out because, again, they didn't find any. Like I said, the case was thrown out settled out because, they didn't find no copyright reasonings. They didn't find no illegalness. It was just, something that was on basically on a different browser. Different server. It was being created on a different server, and that there was nothing else to find or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, though, Microsoft Edge, they're trying to emulate what Google Chrome has done because they noticed that a lot of people, not many, but just slightly a bit more, I would say 25 to maybe 30% more people prefer Chrome over Microsoft Edge and over things like Firefox and Aurora and stuff like that, or Ura, whatever it's called. It's Ouya, browser. I don't know what it's called, but they prefer it more over any other browser, even some of the new ones, because there's less stress, I think, when it comes to, dealing with having updates and stuff like that. And again, like I said, it's one of those browsers that you can install and not have to worry about, does it need to have an update every now and then because of the server, because of what it's connected to, or does it have to continuously load in everything, just to make sure it's running right. For an update, just to make sure it's running right. That's why it's preferred by a lot of people. Yes, the updates, minor or feature, do help improve the browser. I'm not going to deny that. But again, this is why people prefer Google Chrome. Why? Basically, like I said, it has a slight edge, coin of phrase, over Microsoft Edge, because no one has to worry about, going onto the browser and at several times having to wait for something to load up because, it takes a while for Edge to load the image, or basically because Microsoft, through the internet is downloading downloading updates to be utilized and uploaded later, for, future updates. So between the two, Google Chrome, gets the slight, victory. And it's because of the fact that even though Edge is good, and I do use Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome, because I use Google Chrome most times for my live streams, and if I just feel like, using it for browsing once in a while, I use both. But again, the reason they get that slight victory is because of the fact that, Microsoft Edge is part of the system when you get it, and it's always going to have to deal with updates every month. And you're always going to have to deal with Microsoft downloading updates into your computer while you're on it, just to make sure, just to make sure whether or not it needs patches or updates to it itself. And the other thing is because of the fact that Microsoft is trying to emulate Chrome by making Edge very identical to it. So, all in all, both are good browsers. I'm not going to knock them for that. They do both, and yes, both do have some issues and things they need to fix and work out in the future, like Adobe Flash. They both have to find a way to utilize that, if you will, without having people go to Adobe's website and download the Flash player, risking potentially something that could just, harm the computer. So they need to work on that on both ends, if you will. But again, despite both being good, Chrome, when you really look at it, in the end, gets a slight edge, coin a phrase, over Edge. And if Microsoft wants Edge to surpass Google Chrome, then they need to make sure not only do they work out all the bugs and everything in the future, but they need to make sure that when anybody browses Edge or uses Microsoft Edge to browse, that there will be no more loading. There will be no more constant, okay, you've got to wait till the picture loads, or you got to wait because we're loading updates and all that. They need to stop that. They need to stop that from happening and just allow people to have a browser that they can browse the internet with. But what do you get? What do you guys think? What is the more preferable between the two? Which one do you prefer more? Because I notice a lot of people using Chrome, even guys like Angry Joe. But which ones do you prefer more? Do you prefer Edge, Chrome, or some of the others out there? Let me know down below. Let me know what your thoughts on the live chat during the premiere, and I'll talk to y'all later.